15L32, go ahead.
I've got multiple officers down outside of the East McCade station. Suspect is at large. Location unknown. Get me backup and medics here. Code 3. Get me SWAT.
Very rarely, in Ready or Not, do we encounter the truly crazy. More often than not, we're up against organized criminal groups, cartels, terrorist cells, and the like. And while their actions are undoubtedly horrific, I wouldn't necessarily classify them as outright crazy. The closest that I think we've come to so far might be the school shooters in the level Elephant. But even then, some might argue that their actions stemmed from years of social rejection and untreated mental illness. Looking back on it now, I realize that I've oversimplified this in the past, just chalking it up to these kids being crazy. That was an honest mistake. The reality of this situation is far more nuanced than that and deserves deeper understanding. That being said though, there is another level in this game that's gained notoriety for a very different reason. Because in this mission, we're quite literally chasing down a naked, deranged old man. Now, at first glance, this might just seem like a silly one-off mission with little significance. But if we dig a little deeper, it turns out to be one of the most lore-rich levels in the entire game. So please make yourself comfortable, grab yourself something to drink, and accompany me as we investigate Lethal Obsession. Our mission here begins with a radio transmission from a police officer at the East McCade police station. The transmission states that a squad car was found burning in the station's parking lot, and when officers approached to investigate, they were ambushed by a man wielding a rifle. 3 officers were killed instantly, and 3 others were critically injured, unable to return fire. Before additional officers could respond, the shooter fled the scene in an RV, and at this point, we have no clear information about the suspect's identity. Shortly after fleeing the scene, the RV was spotted by a witness who managed to get its license plate number. This crucial information allowed law enforcement to track the suspect down, giving us a probable name and location. Gerard Scott, a resident of Sullivan's Slope. Now, Gerard Scott is an absolutely fascinating character to me. Aside from the obvious fact that he just attacked a police station, he also has a background as a former member of the USIA, the Ready or Not equivalent of the CIA. His time here in the government means that he's likely been involved in some highly classified and highly shady operations. The last time that we crossed paths with another USIA agent was Elaine Raskin, the leader of the Carriers of the Vine cult. She too exhibited bizarre and extreme behavior. It sort of raises the question, is there a deeper connection here? Are these people genuinely unhinged, or did their time working in the government cause them to develop these extremist tendencies? For now though, speculation will have to wait. We're dealing with a very active and dangerous threat, so it's time for us to focus up and head towards Sullivan's Slope. When we arrive at the scene, we're met with the sight of a large cabin surrounded by dense woods. To the west, we can see the RV that Gerard used to flee the police station, now sitting engulfed in flames. This was likely done in a crude attempt to destroy evidence. Now, many players, including myself, have previously referred to this map as the Ruby Ridge level, but after doing a bit of research, I've come to realize that this comparison is deeply rooted in misunderstanding. Aside from the visual similarities, a standoff at a remote cabin in the woods, there's really no meaningful connection between the two. The Ruby Ridge standoff is infamous for being one of the most egregious federal missteps in U.S. history. In this incident, U.S. Marshals, the ATF, and the FBI's hostage rescue team executed a disastrous operation that resulted in the deaths of a 14-year-old boy, his mother, and the U.S. Marshal. The entire situation here stemmed from the possession of 2 sawed-off shotguns, a simple issue that could have been resolved with a $200 tax stamp. Instead though, 3 lives were tragically lost, and Ruby Ridge remains a grim reminder of federal overreach. In contrast, what we're dealing with here is a deranged individual who shot up a police station. So the situations aren't really comparable here beyond their surface level aesthetics. Anyways though, as we begin to approach the cabin, we'll pass an outhouse and notice some newspapers scattered on the ground. The headlines read, "Officer killed in hostage situation, human trafficking operation scattered, and child abduction on the rise." Going forward, we can only hope that these stories aren't connected to what we're about to uncover here. Nearby, we can also find a table with a radio on it, playing a conspiracy theory talk show called Truth LS. In this particular episode, the host rambles about mind control through our devices, claiming that their only purpose is to keep the public docile and under control. Now, while this is just sort of typical conspiracy babble, the host soon shifts to discussing something more rooted in reality. He talks about the problems plaguing Los Sueños, the trash crisis, the issues with the Banco, and other incidents that we as the player have seen with our own eyes. The host claims that the USIA and something called the MLO are the shadowy forces behind these events. Now, the mention of this MLO is intriguing here because it's a name that we haven't encountered before. But seeing as we don't have any other information to work with, for now, all we can do is keep moving forward and search for answers. As we make our way around the exterior of the cabin, we begin to piece together a clearer picture of what's going on inside Gerard's mind. On one of the outer walls, we spot a depiction of the all-seeing eye, accompanied by the chilling phrase, "always watching, always listening." This unsettling tagline isn't just a one-off detail either. It's repeated again on the eastern side of the building, reinforcing Gerard's paranoia. The cabin itself is fortified with a makeshift barricade, a barbed wire fence lined with thick sheets of corrugated sheet metal. It's a crude yet effective design, suggesting that Gerard was not only prepared for confrontation, but was actively anticipating it. And when we go to open the door to get inside, that suspicion is confirmed. One tiny thing that I forgot to mention is that the entire house is littered with IEDs. Doors that you would never expect to be booby-trapped are booby-trapped. It's practically a rite of passage at this point for every new Ready or Not player to get blown up on their first run-through of this map. And honestly, even as an experienced player, it still catches me off guard more often than I'd like to admit. So if you're diving into this mission, do yourself a favor and tread carefully. After making our way into the main hallway and not blowing up, we're likely to encounter resistance, either from Gerard himself or one of his accomplices. It seems that Gerard has recruited a small group of like-minded, conspiracy-driven individuals who are just as committed and just as dangerous as he is. So we need to proceed here with extreme caution. Once the dust settles though, we can finally start taking in our surroundings. And the first thing that we notice is the horrific state of the cabin. Papers and trash are piled so high that they nearly swallow the floors, and the remains of dead animals, like birds and rats, can be found throughout the different rooms. The walls themselves are covered in chain link fencing and aluminum foil, with small foil streamers dangling from the ceiling. In the kitchen, we'll find boxes stuffed with stolen federal documents, as well as cryptic messages scrawled across the refrigerator. One particularly alarming note references something called the USIA Godhead complex, but as of right now, we don't really have a clue as to what that could be. Exploring a bit further, we can find the living room, which features a projector displaying some images, as well as a voice recorder resting on a nearby cabinet. Now, just a heads up, this level is absolutely packed with voice recordings, and not all of them are directly relevant to the story at hand. So for the sake of pacing here, I'm going to summarize the less critical ones and focus on the key details. In this particular recording, Gerard speaks about being watched and insists that the air, water, and food around him have all been poisoned. He claims to have a cure for these supposed threats, but he believes that the USIA will do whatever it takes to stop him. Moving upstairs, we can sort of see as this paranoia intensifies. Post-it notes cover the walls, with a chilling message scrawled over top of them. They are in your head, behind your eyes, clawing at your brain. On the ceiling, another ominous phrase reads, "We need no agenda, USIA." It's clear that Gerard's time with the USIA has left deep scars. The anxiety and paranoia that he feels towards the organization are palpable. Outside, we can find yet another recording that sheds light on what might have pushed Gerard into this downward spiral. In this tape, Gerard speaks to a woman named Eve, who we can only assume was his late partner. Through listening to this, it's clear that Gerard blames himself for Eve's death, though the exact circumstances of it remain unclear. Whether it was by illness or something more sinister is left up to our interpretation. What is apparent, though, is that Eve grounded Gerard. She was his tether to reality, and with her gone, he's lost all connection to stability. With nothing left to hold on to, Gerard has fully plunged into this obsession with conspiracy theories, channeling all of his energy into a singular destructive purpose. He's on what can only be described as a suicide mission, hinting at these intentions with his final words, "I'll see you soon." But this leaves us with a burning question. What exactly is Gerard's mission? Why would he attack a police station and shoot 6 officers? The answer lies downstairs in what appears to be Gerard's sleeping quarters. This room is overflowing with documents, newspaper clippings, and evidence of Gerard's unraveling psyche. It's also the single largest lore dump in the entire game, so please, by all means, get comfortable because we're going to be here for a minute. One of the first items that stands out on Gerard's bulletin boards is a newspaper clipping titled "Former Lab Assistant on USIA Experimental Programs Breaks Silence." The article details an experiment involving daily, non-consensual doses of LSD, conducted in an effort to create incorruptible law enforcement agents. And these subjects were monitored, tested, and manipulated all without their knowledge. The parallels of this to the real-world MK Ultra experiments are both striking and unsettling. By itself, this revelation is horrific, but right next to the article is another clipping that provides insight into the rationale behind these experiments. Quote, "Psychedelic drugs such as LSD, ecstasy, mushrooms, and psilocybin are believed to have beneficial effects on mental illness, addiction, and reforming deviant minds. After years of being shut down, research into psychedelics is finally allowed to resume." It seems that the aim of this program wasn't just to brainwash, but was also to reform troublesome individuals into perfect government operatives. The means of achieving this? Covertly dosing them with LSD and observing the results. Interestingly, we can also come across the name of this program, the MLO experiment. On another document, the header reads, quote, "Partial list of MLO experiment subjects leaked, most of them in places of power today, law enforcement, politics, and national intelligence." And Gerard's notes confirm this. One of the names on the list is identified as a major name in Los Sueños. He pioneered a faster communications system for the entire city. The people on this list weren't just random individuals, they were significant, influential people. However, some of the names on this list have been ominously crossed out. For instance, that communications pioneer that I mentioned earlier, he reportedly died of a suspicious heart attack. The rest of the board is covered with other reports of mysterious deaths, accidents, and disappearances. Gerard theorizes that these deaths are part of a USIA cover-up. He believes that the members of the initial cohort of MLO subjects are being systematically eliminated to bury the program's secrets. And scrawled on one of the notes is a haunting question: what happened to the second cohort? This note implies that the MLO experiment wasn't just a one-time project. The USIA was confident enough to conduct multiple rounds of testing, convinced that somehow they could perfect their method of creating the ideal operative. But somewhere along the line, something went wrong. Either too much information leaked, or the project failed in ways that the USIA couldn't contain. And rather than clean up the mess responsibly and admit fault, the agency seems to have opted for the darkest path possible, systematically eliminating everyone connected to the experiment. What's even more alarming, though, is that some of the remaining subjects appear to be catching on to this. Gerard's notes suggest that some of these individuals are holding secret meetings amongst themselves, perhaps to uncover the truth, or even to fight back. But Gerard has chosen his own path. On a nearby board, we can see that he plans to manufacture ricin, with his intent being to mail the deadly toxin to the people that he holds responsible for all of this. At least that's the most likely interpretation here. It's sort of difficult to piece everything together given how fragmented and cryptic Gerard's notes are. But here's what we can say for certain. The USIA conducted an experiment akin to MK Ultra, called the MLO experiment. The subjects of this experiment are now disappearing or dying under suspicious circumstances, and Gerard is furious about the USIA's actions and seems intent on seeking revenge through this ricin plot. As we process all of this, we notice another audio recorder on a nearby desk, and what we hear next is very interesting.
Judge will come here. too. It has to be him. I've seen his training, his methods. I know what kind of man he is. Part of the cycle, just like me. A never-ending game. I'll show him when he gets here. Show him that he's the same puppet as me. Trapped in the same sick play.
As we listen to this audio tape, we uncover something deeply unsettling. It suggests that Judge, the character that we play as, is somehow entangled in this conspiracy theory. In the recording, Gerard declares, "You're a puppet, just like me, trapped in the same sick play." Through this, it becomes clear that Gerard has not only anticipated our arrival, but orchestrated this entire situation to ensure that we be the ones responding. This wasn't just some random act of violence, it was a deliberate ploy to draw us out here. But why? Why would Gerard go to such extremes, killing multiple people just to lure us into this situation? What about us is so critical to his plan? For now though, those questions will have to wait. We still haven't cleared the basement, and whatever answers or dangers await us down there, we'll need to be ready. When we make our way down into the basement, we uncover the chilling extent of Gerard's operation. The area is a fully functional ricin production lab, complete with castor beans, vials, and beakers. Gerard has even painted a step-by-step guide on the wall, ensuring his accomplices can follow the process without error. And nearby, we'll find another audio log. In this recording, Gerard reflects on the consequences of his actions. He acknowledges that he'll be demonized by the media and the public, but insists that what he's doing here is necessary. He views his mission as the beginning of something larger, predicting that others will soon follow in his footsteps after he's gone. And considering the unrest already in Los Sueños, this isn't far-fetched. It's a terrifying possibility. In the next room, we'll find makeshift spray bottles intended for delivering the ricin. It seems that Gerard's plan wasn't to mail poisoned letters or to lace somebody's food, but instead to use these spray bottles for quick, devastating attacks on multiple targets. And the nearby chart confirms this, as his next intended victims are federal agents. This is further supported by yet another audio log. Here, Gerard blatantly reveals that the attack on the police station was a calculated move. He admits to luring us to the cabin deliberately, stating, "The stage has been set. I've dealt with the pawns. Now the ones I really want will come to me." And by the ones he really wants, he means us. But this once again brings up that question that I asked earlier. Why would Gerard want to kill us specifically? Earlier, he referred to us as a puppet like himself, trapped in the same sick play. This implies that somehow our character, David Judge Beaumont, is tied to the same USIA conspiracy. After finishing the level, this theory gains even more weight when we discover a photo of ourselves in Gerard's possession, labeled part of the cycle. But how are we involved? The answer here lies in the Cherriessa Farms mission. As mentioned earlier, this is one of the only other levels where we encounter another USIA agent in Elaine Raskin. And while her story diverges from Gerard's, her knowledge here is what connects the dots. If we happen to achieve an S rank on the Cherriessa mission, we unlock a classified document found within the cult's compound. And this document provides irrefutable proof that Judge is connected to the USIA. The document reads as follows. Top secret. Subject, Mariposa plant. Raskin, I'll remind you of the importance of this operation and our slim time frame. Many of our agents are stretched thin and are unable to keep tabs on target Gamma 1. You remain one of our only eyes on the subject, and time is running out. Understood. Been keeping tabs on quite a few agencies. Seems I'll need to dial in on the department fully now. I'm all ears. Gamma 1 remains utmost priority, with our plan to implement him within the department. He has completed his training phase organized by our advisory team. Once inserted, he'll be assigned a leadership position, amongst others not in the program. His performance will be monitored thoroughly via a number of factors. His survival is not ensured due to the high-risk nature of work. Give me some more details, dates, any links, and whoever else is watching him. We already have an agent that you're familiar with within the station monitoring Gamma 1 within a secluded area, although we are needing extra eyes. Enter the station and head through the department. You'll slip through with the identification we've provided. Once you're with him, you'll need to be given extra information on Gamma 1 and our end goal. Do not communicate with any persons other than our agent. So when do we begin? You'll meet in 2 weeks' time. Our agent's location will be provided in separate mapped documentation. The first cohort was a failure. We built monsters and turned them loose into the dark. It's only a matter of time before the Mariposa grow and you're hung out to dry. I'll do it right this time, E. And scrawled next to all of this is the name Beaumont, Judge's last name. This document confirms that Judge was unknowingly part of the MLO program. He was molded into the perfect operative and inserted as the LSPD's SWAT team commander. Unbeknownst to him, his entire career here has been orchestrated by the USIA. Even as the program began to fall apart and handlers like Raskin and Gerard defected, the USIA seemed to be a step ahead, as they sent Judge himself in to take care of them. The whole revelation here is just mind-blowing. The document here also reveals another grim history, as the first cohort of MLO test subjects are said to be a catastrophic failure. These individuals, referred to as monsters, were unleashed on Los Sueños, causing untold havoc. In an audio log found in Cherriesa, Raskin briefly mentions that the MLO program was shut down after some of the cohort subjects attacked a dam, likely as an act of retaliation against their tormentors. However, even after all of this, not all of the test subjects were eliminated. Some still lurk in the shadows, waiting for their moment to strike. Gerard Scott's story is just one example of how the MLO's legacy continues to ripple through Los Sueños, and Judge, whether he knows it or not, is caught in the middle of it all. But I would love to hear your thoughts on this though. Do you think that the MLO is legitimate, or is it all just a crazy conspiracy theory? I'd also like to take a quick moment to shout out all of my awesome channel members and patrons. Cosmonaut, Asterisk 762, Za, CrankyBox99, Dangun, Caillou, Alexander, Neostank, and Tori Hunter. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. It absolutely means the world to me. But with all of that stuff being said, thank you so much for watching today's video. You know I love you. I'm out.